The fundamental health, success, and desirability of any city is often just based on a few pillars. These few foundations are a healthy economy, housing, and transportation. In the case of Vancouver, the last point is something that has come under a lot of tension, debate, and monitoring by various parties, particularly due to its beef with Uber. By now, Uber doesn't need much of an introduction. The tech-savvy ride-hailing giant from San Francisco is a behemoth of a company. There have been whispers of them going public and estimates from JP Morgan suggesting the company to be worth $120 billion. For relative terms, that's twice the size of Tesla and bigger than Netflix, Costco, Starbucks, Nike, and Honda. Uber's profits have gone from $100 million in 2013 to $7.5 billion in 2017. Operating now in 65 countries and over 600 cities worldwide, it's fair to say the company has expanded its reach in a voracious manner. The company now has 3 million drivers under its belt, and it's easy to see why. The company's flexibility applies to drivers as much as it does riders. Drivers can now literally pick up their phone and go work for half an hour. 87% of drivers in the US said flexibility was the main reason for them driving with Uber. As global economies continue to develop and advance both technologically and socially, the market for Uber still contains untapped potential. Places like India and third world countries may still contain some value. Of course, there's a big city that is far from the third world, Vancouver. One that is often lauded as paradise, and that prides itself in eco-friendly, green-taking initiatives, and one that is technologically forward-thinking. It seems a bit odd to consider that there is no Uber in Vancouver, and yet Uber is now fully operational in 4 different cities in Kazakhstan. After all, in relative terms, San Francisco and Vancouver are right across the fence from one another. So why does the city lack the ride-hailing giant that is Uber? One that many polls suggest Canadians actually want. Well, the reality is, the taxi industry in Vancouver and the NDP party are 2 big guards at the gate, preventing Uber from coming in. They have put up a number of reasons as to why, and in this video we would like to shed some light on the matter, debunk a few main arguing points, and hopefully inform our fellow Vancouverites. We often hear, especially from a libertarian standpoint, that the government dips its toes and meddles in the affairs of business and markets. This might be one of those cases, and to be frank, it's pissed some people off. The tourism industry has labeled it unfathomable, and the Liberal leader Andrew Wilkinson said, "The NDP party have set up a cumbersome government-run bureaucracy for something that should be determined by market demand." The NDP have pushed back more than once the idea of introducing Uber into Vancouver, first quoting 2018 as the intended timeline, now suggesting late 2019 as a more appropriate date. It wouldn't be surprising if they pushed it back again. The taxi industry in Vancouver has been around for a very long time. They've built up an influential network over a near century and are quite powerful. The NDP's successful campaign is in part due to the cabbie support, who make up an influential proportion of their voting populace in key places like Surrey. Adding to this campaign contributions, representatives within government, key fundraisers, the whole shebang. They have sent out the message that has been reiterated for some time, that Uber is not safe. They say a lack of background checks means that Uber is not safe, that anyone can be your driver, including serial killers, rapists, and even Osama bin Laden. Don't say they didn't warn you if that actually happens. Obviously aiming to strike fear into our fellow Vancouverites, the reality is, fear-mongering aside, Uber has a large incentive to ensure both passengers and drivers are safe at all times. They do conduct thorough background checks, often with the help and cooperation of local police forces, and that is something data suggests has been working. The Cato Institute reported that there is no overall difference in safety risk between taxis and Uber. Ironically enough, the fear is for the most part unjustified, and there's a lot of data to suggest that drivers have more reason to fear you rather than the other way around. From 1998 to 2007, taxi driver homicide rates were between 21 and 33 times higher than the national average. And in Canada, cab drivers are twice as likely to be murdered on the job than police officers. So maybe tip your driver a little extra next time, or at the bare minimum, don't murder them. Their job is stressful enough as is. Those that criticize Uber say they wiggle through regulatory loopholes to provide a lower cost to the consumer. In other words, they're saying they're not playing by the rules. But the reality is, cost isn't even one of the biggest factors as to why people are compelled to try and use Uber. These misguided assumptions don't hold much water, as this poll shows. Convenience and availability has been studied to be the biggest factor. And that makes sense, especially amongst millennials and younger tech-savvy generations who want to do everything on their phone, including date and share their avocado experiences. Two topics we've covered that you might be interested in looking at. If we look at the share of Canadians by age groups who use Uber, we can see that 18 to 34-year-olds is the market that most resonates with the ride-hailing giant. Compared to cabs, again by age group, we can see almost proportionally. As certain age groups get older, their desirability for Uber diminishes, with their desirability for cabs going up. As you can see, the oldies still prefer cabs, which I'd say makes sense. They like familiarity, they lack tech savviness, and convenience or price isn't necessarily the most important thing on their agenda. The increased cost of living and wealth gap are two things we've probably heard of by now, but sometimes technology through innovation can create avenues for lower cost and efficiency. Uber very much fits this category, with the real estate market in Vancouver already having many subject to a fair bit of trepidation towards growing up. Wouldn't it be nice to see the cost of transportation going down? And it very much will if every other Canadian city that has Uber is used as a point in reference, and we can see the average savings from top to bottom by city. Of course, this isn't necessarily new news, but it's good to quantify it to get a broader perspective. The concept of ride sharing means that few people can get into the same car and go in the same direction. This puts less cars on the road, which is good for emissions. It costs less, and the driver makes more money on an income per kilometer basis. Another benefit is less traffic, which everyone can appreciate, and you never know, you may strike up an interesting conversation with the strangers in the car. And if that wasn't enough, there are a number of studies that show that with the successful implementation of both public transit and ride-hailing services, many people feel, over time, less compelled to own a vehicle altogether. It's not too crazy of an idea to think about when you consider how convenient Uber is and all the headaches of owning a car comprise of. The reality is the cab industry hasn't stepped up to the task. The governing bodies that oversee the taxi industry limit and fix the number of taxis in each jurisdiction. The problem is these numbers don't react in a timely fashion to supply and demand in day-to-day life. Rather, they paint it all with one brush, which means the excess amount of cars lined up on Monday at 2 p.m. waiting outside a popular metropolitan area with no one to drive, and at the same time, a shortage of taxis on a Friday night at 2 a.m. after a fun-of-nighted adventure on Granville Street or at Yaletown. Uber, on the other hand, takes the initiative to monitor supply and demand in a much more effective and timely fashion. There are various stakeholders who stand to lose or benefit no matter which direction this goes. For example, license shares. The license is an approved and granted authority to operate one taxi in a given region. Once approved by the Passenger Transportation Board, the license acts like an asset because it is associated with a piece of business and cash flow. What most license holders do is they lease it to drivers. Contrary to what many think, the license owner and the driver are often two different people. And not so surprisingly, the cities where Uber operates, the value of these licenses has gone down. An article from the Globe and Mail says, in September 2012, Toronto's taxi licenses sold for $360,000. As it turned out, this was a peak. In 2014, these same licenses were worth $118,000. That is a 67% decline in an asset. If this was any other business market, such as real estate or stocks, it would be media frenzy, public panic, and there would be considerable turmoil. A lot has been talked about in this video, so the question is, where do we go from here? Well, Vancouverites have started to take notice, usually when on vacation elsewhere, or through their bragging of their friends in other Canadian cities, about how awesome Uber is. And the city probably stands to lose too much to never implement it. Risks rise, such as looking technologically obsolete, as well as a potential decline in the tourism industry, as it is booming year-round, with winter times in Whistler and summer times at English Bay. They've already experienced a fair level of criticism. We can expect these to amplify over time. But the reality is, we also don't want these cab drivers and the cab industry to evaporate. It would be ideal to not have a disruption in their employment, and in order to prevent this from happening, the cab industry probably needs some time, particularly time to modernize. This means two big things: integrating technology into their operation, such as mobile apps, and increasing the supply of cabs. It also means protecting some investments the cab industry has made, as we said, the value of licenses. So sit tight, Vancouverites. It may be a long and frustrating process, but Uber should be on its way. And the rest of Canada is cheering for you because, well, we like you, and it doesn't hurt to use Uber when we come visit. The Elevate Group provides media, content, and research in a number of subjects in life. Feel free to check out our other content. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.